Good evening, one and all, and welcome to another weekly edition of TouchyGooners. It's your boy SB Carbaholic on hosting duty, back once again, and I'm delighted to be joined by OG member of the group. And how are you this evening, sir?
I'm well, brother. What are you saying? You good?
Yeah, I'm all good. I'm all good. And the arch
Right.
nemesis of the TG group currently, Khalil. How are you, sir? You good?
Fantastic as always. I keep
Yeah.
getting labels attached to me, and I don't exactly know why.
Bro, you've made a lot of enemies in the chat in a very short space of time, but such is life. We like hustling. It's all good. Everything's fair in love and war. We will have Shabs joining us further down the line, I believe, as well. But we will get cracking. Just a quick house note. Our patrons are going up, so please do tell a friend to tell a friend. I think we've crossed another milestone as well, so loads more people joining. And if you do like the content, please, yeah, do share it out. We'd love to have more people on board. But if you just listen to the Wednesday pods, that is all well and good as well. Myself and Lewis did record a post match after the North London derby. Um, so if you want to hear some more granular detail, we're not going to go into heavy detail about that game just because of what's coming up tomorrow against Atalanta and at the weekend against City, and obviously some injury news as well. So we're going to touch on all of those bits. But yeah, Anton, you haven't been on in a while, so
No, you lot never invite me on. That's why. It ain't through
well,
choice.
bro, we put this thing in the group all the time. I don't know what you're
Oh,
doing
get out of here.
or what attention you're paying to, but yeah, no, it's good. It's good to have you on. It's good to be back. We heard you tussling on the, well, not really tussling, but it was good to have you representing on the main pod at the weekend. And obviously you spoke post match about the North London derby. I don't really want to go into great detail because it's obviously a few days have passed now and we've sort of spoken about it already. But what was your, if you could have like a main takeaway from that game at the weekend, what would be your takeaway?
I think we've turned into a really resilient and professional football team.
Mm,
Um, like I said on the pod on Sunday, I was worried going into Sunday, and then Sunday morning I was like, hold on a minute, how are they gonna break us down?
mm,
Like I didn't have any fear that they could hurt us. I didn't think we had a lot because of the players that were missing, but I had no fear that they could hurt us. So I was,
mm,
and that's a very rare feel or a very new feeling for an Arsenal fan because even not obviously invincible days, but even when we've been a good side, we were still susceptible to being punished.
mm.
I didn't feel that. I feel like now um, our only weakness, not that it happens, is that what can harm us is ourselves.
Mm.
Like I feel like we'd have to make potentially like three mistakes from three different players to lead to a goal,
Yeah.
and you have to earn everything against us. Now you didn't used to have to
Mm,
earn it; we just get killed on the break or just a little bit of clever approach play. So yeah,
mm,
it's good the outfit that we've become forwards
mm.
and backwards.
Yeah. No, 100%. I agree. I feel like back in the day, you spoke about, especially post Invincibles, we had quite a few good teams under Wenger, but you always knew against anyone good we could get hit in transition. Like I
Yeah,
always
yeah,
felt it.
yeah.
Like as much as I loved watching it, and some of
Woo!
those,
Enter
some
it
of
in.
they scored.
Should have shot. No, he
No,
didn't shoot.
some of those post Wenger teams were some of my favourites. But I'll be real, like we often used to moan, right, that we were always a couple players short, and that,
You remember the goals we'd concede. The
bro,
goal we
100.
conceded on the right, as the ball's going in the net, you'll see our left back slowly get coming into the picture, or on the
Mm,
other side,
mm,
our
mm,
right back would always be coming into the picture as it went into the net. Everyone's always sprinting towards the goal, but no one's close enough. We don't get broken on. You remember those days? Like you'd see
Yeah,
it
yeah.
all the time, and it was so frustrating. Um, so yeah, it is pleasing. It is pleasing.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I feel like Arteta, who was probably part of some of those sides as well, like even when we were crap in his early days as well, like he was very much insistent on like nothing comes through the middle. Like it's very rare, like you see, when like one of the open things was like team used to break and like you were just Arsenal's defense was just like parting like the Red Sea. There was so much open space to run into. So that's a real positive generally that has probably been a trend under Arteta. Kilo, let me come over
Yeah.
to you. What was your main takeaway from the game on Sunday? I think for me, obviously, I think we spoke last week on the pod, right? That we knew sort of what Andrew was going to do, and there was a blueprint to beating him, and it pretty much turned out how we described. Obviously, games don't always happen like that, but I feel like he's quite predictable to an extent, and the game pretty much panned out how we thought it would pan out.
Yeah, I mean, it's like how we discussed and how we tweeted. Lads, it's Tottenham. I mean, we're such a resilient defensive team, and we know what their weaknesses are. And I'd go as far as say that the Odegaard and Rice absences even simplified our game plan even more. So there was no even sort of a need to go and try and impress our game on Spurs where maybe gaps can open up. We defended well, we broke, we had a few opportunities, and we know if we kept it solid, there's going to be an opportunity, and that's pretty much what happened. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get into the City game, but and obviously City are a far better team, but I sort of expect there to be a similar-ish blueprint going into this weekend. It leads into our strengths, and it sort of hides our absences well. So yeah, I expected a win. We got a win. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it for me. Move on to the next game, and we've obviously got a bunch of important games in a short period of time coming up.
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't disagree too tough on what you said. I think it's probably going to be a bit of a blueprint, and probably more as we all speak on now. With the injury. So, and Arteta had his pre-match press conference ahead of the Atalanta game today, and obviously what people's first fears were looks like it's going to be true. I think there's no time frame put on Odegaard's injury, but I think from what's been tweeted and what's been said, we're looking at minimum 6 weeks that he's going to be out for. So we're probably not going to see Odegaard before November. What might work well in our favour is that after Man City, we don't have such a bad run of fixtures. Obviously, we've had quite a hard start, right? Everyone's spoken about the hard start we've had. We've had Villa away, Spurs away, and now we've got City away at the weekend. So, and obviously, we know one of our ops over at Muga, Morayo, has asked, "Hi guys, long time listener here. A few questions. No Odegaard for a while. What's the impact on your season expectation? Is this the perfect opportunity for Ethan to get a chance? And 3 months from now, I think that's what he thinks the timescale is. How many minutes would he have played for the first team and how many starts?" So there's a few different questions there. But first and foremost, let's talk about obviously what's the impacts on this potential long-term Odegaard absence.
I mean, he's a big loss. He'd be a big loss for any side. He's one of the best midfielders in world football. He's very important to our team. I think we've built a strong enough team, though, that can withstand his absence. Odegaard doesn't really kick into gear till it gets really cold anyway. So,
What do you say, man's got to wait till it turns -5 before we see the best of him. Yeah.
-5. He locks in still. So for now, we're all right. I think if you can't cope with the loss of one player, then you can't be in the position that we're in anyway. So it is a loss. Don't get me wrong, but I feel there's enough that we can cope without him. It's just a shame that we gave up on Smith Rowe, Khalil.
Why
And
say F
now,
me for?
and now is when Odegaard's picked up an injury that will not that he would have trusted him, but yeah, now's the time. But yeah, I'm not overly concerned. Obviously, you want to have as many of your best players available as possible, but I think we can cope without him for 6 weeks.
Okay. Khalil, just on that point, right? So obviously we know about the importance of Odegaard. He's someone who leads the press for us. He's the main playmaker of the team. He drops in first phase to help build up, and he scores goals as well for us. So that's a monumental task to replace, right? So maybe to Mariah's second point, obviously, is this a chance for Ethan to get minutes, or how do you feel we might potentially approach replacing him? Because we've never really been without Odegaard for such a prolonged period. This is going to force Arteta to find some other new solutions. And obviously, we know the low block, we know we can sit deep and transition, but in terms of replacing his actual profile and his attributes, how do you think we might go about that?
So just to quickly answer Morale's first question, which was expectations. This doesn't change. This injury doesn't change any expectations for me in regards to the season. This is the squad that Arteta has crafted. unless we have 10, 15 injuries. I'm not trying to hear like injuries derailing our season, if that makes sense. It is what it is. We move with it. In regards to Odegaard and Smith Rowe, even this would have been the perfect time for Smith Rowe to end up with a knee injury that keeps him out for 3 weeks anyway. So him not being here, I don't think makes a difference. In regards to Odegaard, of course, he's a huge miss. He is the technical leader on the pitch, and he's obviously the captain. And as you mentioned, he initiates our press. You can see him, always pointing towards our wingers or midfielders to squeeze up and push up. So again, having that sort of figure missing is important. I think you've talked about we've got an easier run of games going forward. I would personally expect to see Ethan getting minutes and significant minutes, because with Marino also not being around, you're limited by numbers, and purely by numbers and the players that we've got in those positions, you would expect that the minutes would end up. You would expect that minutes will fall into Ethan's lap. I think it makes most what would I say tactical sense to put trust in him. If we're going to be coming up against deep blocks, we are going to need a bit of ingenuity. It doesn't mean that he's suddenly going to become, do everything that Odegaard does for us, because that's just not possible. This is where you need your other players to step up as well. We see Saka being more and more sort of verbal as a leader, and taking more responsibility. This is where your other senior players, this is where guys like Jesus need to step up. These are the guys that you know you're there, you're leaders for a reason. One guy, as important as he is, shouldn't be derailing your season. In terms of setup, I don't anticipate us setting up much differently, as I mentioned, for the City game. I think the blueprint is there for us. Solid at the back, keep chances against us to a minimum, and then take the opportunities when they come, if possible. Um, I guess when you're at home to, I don't know who our next fixtures are, but let's just say you're at home to Everton or whatever. I think there is a greater license to sort of take a bit more risk, I guess. And we're forced to take a bit risk anyway by having someone like Ethan start, and it's something that I don't have an issue with. We're used to Arsenal players over the years coming in young and producing, so I'm very excited to see how Arteta incorporates him into this.
How long is Marino out for? Surely he was just...
So
Next international break, I think, still. So it's still a bit of a while.
Yeah, I think they said 6 weeks for that shoulder fracture. So
And that was what that happened right at the beginning of the month, right?
it was just before, I think it was the Brighton game. It happened, right? So just
Yeah.
before that game. So it might have been it's been about 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks now, isn't it? Or 2 or 3 weeks. So maybe like another 3 or so weeks.
Okay.
So yeah, but he's really needed back as well, man, because I think at least you can have a solid base with Marino and Rice, and then decide what you're going to do ahead of that. Shabs, come in, bro. That sounded a bit crazy. Let me.
You gotta relax. You gotta relax.
Listen, I'm tired, man. That's my excuse. Yeah, Shabs, let me open the floor to you. What do you agree with what and Khalil was saying about the best way to replace Odegaard? Do you think it might be a shift in formation, or we might find a new player in terms of new solutions, or do you just think it will be like for like with mainly Ethan getting the minutes?
I think it's no, I kind of agree with what and Khalil said. To be fair, I think we'll be crazy to shift formation. I think this is a formation which is now tried and tested, which works. Within the formation, we've got lots of tactical flexibility and lots of variation as well. So there are different ways that we could set, like he could send them out as a 4-3-3, and then you see them take shape as the games evolve in a very different way. So yeah, I'm not worried. I think Ant said it. I think it's not as peak as it would have been even last season. I think we are better. We've got higher quality, but ultimately the coach needs to find solutions. I think there are solutions. As much as I'd be against it, because I really like Havertz as a centre forward. I think Havertz could do a bit of a job there. if necessary. I think Trossard, hate the idea of Trossard off the ball, playing where Odegaard plays, but on the ball, I think he could offer similar-ish qualities, and very similar with Jorginho as well. I think we're used to seeing Jorginho as a six, as a deeper player, but he's been used at Chelsea and Napoli before then, higher up sometimes in more advanced positions. Not all the time, but as and when he's got on the ball qualities that could work. So, and then there's Ethan. So yeah, I think there are some solutions. I think it's not as bad as everyone says. I'm seeing that KDB's potentially injured as well, has come off of this game with an injury. So they're out with they're with we're going to Man City, them without their star player, us without our star player, well not player, midfielder. So yeah.
The other thing I'll add, sorry to interrupt. The other thing I'll add about advancing the Ethan agenda is in that 8 position, we really do need on-ball quality. Not that all the players necessarily do not, but in terms of the high level, sort of mimicking sort of the high technical level that Odegaard was producing. If we've got someone like Trossard in there whose execution is sloppy at best, and Havertz who again in the box is fine, but we've spoken at length about how we don't necessarily like him in that 8 position because we feel as if he doesn't provide enough on-ball quality. I think when we are playing in the coming weeks without Odegaard, I think it will eventually show if we're trying to use Havertz and Trossard in those positions more and more, as opposed to giving Ethan a chance.
Still playing.
What for?
What's these
My
reactions?
guy, this is TouchyGooners, just
he's a former Arsenal player. That counts.
man trying to include Mickey Prop.
Bro, he just came off it. What the fuck? I know that guy.
Sorry,
guys,
gentlemen, before we were rudely interrupted.
Yo, I don't know what your camera's doing, brother.
This guy's not. He's
let
not
me even turn it off. Let me even turn my camera off.
Bro, you're not beating the uncle allegations with these actions, man. What are you doing?
All right, mate. Just because you got a fancy screensaver behind you, you think you're on Sky Sports News? Yeah, shut up, man. I don't even want. I couldn't beat the uncle allegations if I tried. What could I do?
What were we even talking about?
Let me enjoy my brandy.
Brother, you are not beating these uncle allegations, bro. Man, it's a Wednesday night,
I got 4 kids, bro.
Man said,
hey, yo.
Man said, do you, innit? Let me be.
Where were we? All right, cool. So obviously we were obviously talking about potential. So let's wrap up this solutions bit. Yeah. Go on.
Ethan's on-ball ability is what I was stressing. I think we do need it in that high position. I don't think we'd be able to tread water with Havertz and Trossard, but I feel as if we'll need a little more on-ball quality.
Yeah. I don't agree too much. Anne, if you could put down your brandy. You were tussling with me earlier on in the group chat this afternoon when I was saying that I feel like I would like to see a couple players rotated, and I felt like you wanted to keep the same team. You want to run that tomorrow against Atalanta and then City on Sunday as well. So give me your reasoning, because you spoke about rhythm, right? I think my thing was that cool.
Go on, finish your point.
No, go true, bro. It's for you.
But I wasn't saying like keep the same team.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I just feel that there's been a lot of talk about rotation and whatnot, and we've played 4 games. So I'm not saying you play the same 11 for 2 games in 3 days, but there's been a lot of talk about rotating, and I think you need to give players time to build up a rhythm and to be into the season. I don't think you need to be making changes in early September for league games and whatnot. Obviously, you don't want to overplay players, but I think you have to let them get a rhythm and some cohesion in the team before you're chopping and changing. I think it's wild to be suggesting at times, let's change this, let's change that, Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that you can end up in bigger problems doing that.
So I hear you,
Can I
I hear
say
you,
something?
but you hang on one sec, Shabs, yeah, because and you also agree with me a couple of weeks ago when we said that someone like Rice, for example, Rice only had like 3 weeks break and then he came straight back, and like
Mhm.
he's not really had. Rice has played what, probably like 50 games minimum for like 4 seasons running. So in his case, I feel like he's someone that if we can manage him, I feel like it's good that obviously he's just been suspended, so maybe it's a bad example. Like he's had a week off, so he'll probably obviously he will play, he'll come back in and start tomorrow. But is that not a decent example of someone that maybe we could tread water with a bit more, slightly?
So for me, when you rest
Mm,
the Rice,
mm,
is he doesn't play in the domestic cups until the
mm,
quarterfinals
okay.
or semi-finals in the League Cup
Mm,
case. Um, he doesn't need to play in the Champions League group stage. I don't know how this how it works entirely this year, but
mm,
once you've already sealed qualification, or if you're at home to a side where you're going to have 80% possession of the ball and you're pretty much guaranteed to go through. But I just think the margins in our league are so
mm,
fine that we can't really afford rotation until we we need to.
mm, mm.
I just don't think we can. I think, look, we could very easily get to the end of the season and the most important game of our season be the Brighton game that we drew 2 weeks ago.
I hear you. I hear you.
Do you know what I mean? So you don't want to be, oh yeah, we're playing this team at home, so we're going to rotate this and we're going to rotate that, and then you draw or you're 1-1, and then you got to bring on these guys, or you're behind, and then you get a draw, and then you
Mm,
turn around and say, oh well, you know what? We drew games in October because we was rested players that have only played 7 games.
mm, mm. So
So sorry,
go on, go on. No, go on. You come in,
no,
come in.
I was just gonna push back a little bit because I'm looking at Man City tonight. Man City did not start with Phil Foden. I
Phil
believe
Foden's
at the
been
week.
injured though. He hasn't really played much this season, has he?
All right, and then they didn't start Diaz on the weekend. I believe who's starting tonight, and then I don't
Who,
think they started
who started in
Guardiola.
Diaz's place?
I think it was a Kanji and Lewis that started at the weekend, and then
And
now
John Stones. See, the
Stones.
luxury
Yeah,
that
yeah.
City have that we don't have is the gap between their players is so small that they don't have a drop in quality. That's that's a luxury that nobody else can afford. So you can turn around and look at City and can say, yeah, they can rotate this guy. You can throw a blanket over the quality levels from one player to the other. We don't have that. If they don't play Foden and they play Doku, they're losing a bit, but not a great deal. If we don't play Saka and we were playing, say, Fabio Vieira, it's a massive difference. If we don't play Rice and we're playing Jorginho, it's not the same as bringing in Gundogan for KDB or for Rodri. It's just not the same. We don't have the same luxury that they have. So it doesn't make any sense to compare their situation with ours because our situations aren't the same.
I get the argument that obviously City have a better squad, but if you look at what, in theory, our full squad is now, do you not have more faith in the fact that the level of quality that we have is a lot
In
in
our
terms of?
defense, I do. So
So
to
you would,
me, the only
so
place
you
we
wouldn't be
have.
happy with, let's say, if Saka gets rotated for a fully fit Sterling then or Jesus, you still think that's just a non-starter?
Right, that's different, but I think a fully fit Sterling should be starting.
Mm.
So Sterling should be playing on the left, Saka on the
Mhm.
right. If you rotate one of them for Gabriel Jesus, I don't mind.
So
I
the
don't
only
mind, but
thing,
those are not the changes that we've been making. For example, look, let's when was the last time we rotated? We played Luton at home last season, right?
Possibly.
for
Yeah.
I
Thea,
I, I, I think
um,
that was the last time we done major rotation.
I think the other side of it though, because I do agree, is fine. You want balance, you want cohesion, you want them to build up a bit of fluidity, playing together and that. But what we've seen is that when some of these other guys need to be relied upon, they just don't look. They look off. They don't look like they've been integrated. They've not been given kind of any opportunity to integrate or build up fluidity with the main guys either. And that's problematic because then what happens, we get into a pinch and we're reliant on players who just haven't played, who haven't featured enough. And I think people interpret rotation, the word rotation, in different ways as well. If we're saying rotate, people think making wholesale changes. I think it's completely natural to be able to make like one or two changes where, so I think there's an importance about having consistency in the league, but most of these guys as well have already played with, like Gabriel and Saliba. There's going to be no ill effects if one of them gets sat down for the odd game because they have built up such fluidity and such an understanding with each other that it's you know, it's amazing. They're the top defensive pairing in the league, if not Europe. So they're fine. You know, I think Timber, it's important now that he's fit, that he gets games and he gets minutes. Obviously, that needs to be done in a very intelligent way, given the serious injury that he had last season. But he needs to play as well. Zinchenko, you know, Zinchenko is a bit different. It's a bit different. Calafiori, it's important that he gets blooded in the right way and in a meaningful way as well, because we don't want
But
a
this is what I'm
situation
saying.
where
The Calafioris of this world and the Timbers of this world, they're levels. As far as I'm concerned, I don't see a drop in quality with the. Well, I do. I don't think they're as good as. I don't think Calafiori is as good as Gabriel. I don't know much about the difference between him and Tim, but what I'm saying is those differences I'm fine with. I just worry that how Arteta seems to rotate is he makes wholesale changes and he'll bring in 4 or 5 players that haven't played, that aren't the same level as other man, and then expect the same level of performance. And we have
I've not
disjointed,
seen that from him.
uncomfortable games.
I've not seen that from him. I think he's the opposite. I think he's flogged these guys when they've clearly needed a rest. You know, and he's not brought other players in. And the other thing, which Sean made a point on, which I agree, I say the same thing, is it's not just resting man like going into games, it's resting man when the games have been secured. Like
So he's been good with that this year.
So far.
Yeah, so far.
But yeah, he needs
But
to
we
get
must
better.
remember as well, it's the middle of September, literally now.
Yeah, and no one's making any big bones about it either. You know, that's the other. You know, no one's making any big bones about it, saying, it's to the detriment of the squad if he doesn't do it now and blah blah blah. I think most people could understand the argument for and the argument against. Like I think most fans would be reasonable in that regard and say, yeah, no, I could understand why he'd want to keep the same guys in for fluidity and continuity. And then while some others are saying we're a bit fragile. For me, the players that need the most protecting are Saka, because Saka looks flogged and he's been flogged, and Rice. And maybe Saliba's creeping into that territory a little bit, because they just basically, if they're fit and available, they're going to play every game. White less so because he had a rest in the summer, but Saka, that boy's been flogged. You know, he's not really had a summer off since he come into the game, and we're seeing like these little niggles and these little cramps and these little bits and bobs, and he's playing 90 minutes.
What
near
happened
enough
to
for
him on
England
Sunday? Was it
when he
an
goes
impact
away.
thing or what? What happened?
I think it was just cramps.
Just cramp, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think it was anything more than that. It
I
was
think
just
he went
cramp.
down off the ball or something. I can't remember exactly how it happened. But
Yeah, I think it was just a cramp. But he's been flogged. If we talk about minutes played, and it's fantastic. You know, I want our best players to play all the time when they're available. But he's been absolutely flogged. Rice has been flogged, and Rice has been flogged from before coming to Arsenal. If you think about that season he had for West Ham when they went into the Europa League final, and that final was played near enough in June, and then he didn't have a summer, did he? Because what was going on that summer? Signed for Arsenal. They had the World Cup. Didn't it? Was that the World Cup year as well? That was the World Cup year that
that was the December
he'd
before.
signed for us in the World Cup summer. Yeah. And then like he's basically he's not had any kind of gap in the off seasons, any meaningful gaps. You know what I mean? He's just been playing for Arsenal, coming off playing for England, and he's played damn near every game, every minute of every game. And yeah, he's young, he's durable, he's not got an injury history, but I think he's an example. Him, Saka, Saliba, Kai Havertz maybe creeping into that territory a little bit now, but I'm less worried about him. They're the Odegaard, who's injured now. They're the ones who I think just need a bit of protection. Now, I understand not subbing off your centre backs even when games are sewn up, but Odegaard, when the game's won, I want him sat down. Saka, when the game's won, I want him sat down. I do. I'll be honest with you. Saka, I've been saying this for a long time. I'm really worried about him. I do. I just think we need like another option, which means that yeah, we want to be super reliant on him, but when he's not available, we're okay. It's not that at the moment.
I think there's another thing I was going to add here is our full squad at this moment in time, when everyone's fit, I don't have the level of trepidation in regards to player like drop off in quality. If everyone is obviously mostly available, I know guys like Tomiyasu and Tierney are never available, but someone like Marino, I don't anticipate having injury problems because his injury record before getting here was fine. I think it's twofold as well. It is about protecting players to a certain extent, which Shabs has mentioned. But the other side of it is, I want our actual like squad players to be ready when called upon. You've mentioned this before, but yeah, the feeling of them coming sort of cold into times where we really need them, I think, has been an occurrence that's happened in the past. So for me, when you get the opportunities to give these guys minutes, it helps, in small bits, and then down the line, hopefully, it has what you call it, a it can have a significant impact down the line in case they're called upon. Because yeah, it's nice to have your full 11 every week and you're playing the same 11, but invariably, you can't do that for the whole season. So you need to really be proactive and find ways of giving uh, you know, the squad members minutes. And at this point in the project, I don't see like the huge gaps between uh, players who are not starting and players who are starting. I think we've got a really high quality squad. May not be to City's level, but I don't have the level of fear now that if Saka goes out. I think you mentioned Odegaard as maybe being the one sort of fail point, but even then, we're all big believers in Ethan's talent. And yeah, I've got a lot of I think the squad is good enough to kind of withstand these sort of changes.
Yeah, and it's good points you guys all make, and I agree. I think it's more just about balance, especially when we've got an intense week like this. Obviously, we played Spurs. I think Leroy made the point in the chat, like you could tell about 80 minutes, right? Them man were dead on their feet. Like, do you know what I mean? We were just trying to see the game out. And then you're playing the Europa League winners on Thursday, Atalanta, very physical team. So I would make maybe the 2-3 changes, and then we've got City on Sunday. So is there anyone you would like to see, and I'll open this out to you guys, all of you, anyone you'd like to see come in for tomorrow? So I think I agreed with you, Khalil, earlier on when I said I wouldn't mind seeing Calafiori come in for one of White or Timber. Obviously Rice. Would you start Sterling? Yeah, I would bring in Rice for Jorginho. No, sorry, I'd bring in Rice for Party. I beg your pardon.
Yeah,
I'd
George
start
needs to play.
Jorginho and I'd play Jorginho and Rice
You
tomorrow.
would play Jorginho before Partey? Is that because Partey's played more football?
Yeah,
I
and
think
I'm
it's the
also
City game as well.
and I'm thinking about City on Sunday. I don't think
Partey can't do 3 games in a week.
Yeah.
he
Impossible.
can't do 3 games in a week.
Impossible.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And neither of them. So that's what I said. So I think, like, obviously Rice is going to play both games. So have Rice with one of them tomorrow. I think Jorginho is a good idea, and then Rice with Party on Sunday. And then I think I agree. I would bring in one of Sterling or Jesus. I think more likely Sterling into the attack. So yeah, those are the 3 changes I would look to make.
Would any of you consider? I know it sounds wild because he's been one of the best right wingers in the world for the best part of 3 seasons.
I know what you're going to say.
Would any
I
of
know
you
what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say.
Saka in Odegaard's position?
Yeah,
I've already with Sterling and Jesus as the wide men.
So it's funny, right? I think just before the pod, I was tweeting about obviously Odegaard's injury being a big blow and Arteta having to find solutions. And someone was like, "We've seen Saka play centrally before. I would like to see it. Like, I feel like that's a very viable solution. Like, for example, if you put to Ant's point, if you put Saka like say right centre mid and then like Sterling on the right, I could see that working. Like they could interchange as well. Like Sterling could come inside, Saka could still go back to his natural. But I feel like that's a solution I'd like to see personally. You know, obviously we've gone past talking about replacing Odegaard. Obviously Ethan was one of them, but that's another solution I wouldn't mind seeing. And I'd like Saka solution a lot more than playing like Trossard there or Havertz there. Personally, for me anyway. And now having Sterling and obviously Jesus back fit as well, you've got other options that you can play out wide as well. I think that's a decent option.
And I think when Jesus is fit, you have to utilize him as much as you can.
Before he breaks down again.
Basically, you've got to take advantage. Like you're not gonna have him for long, so you might as well get as much as you can whilst you can. So I think that's something we should consider.
I would love to see that, partly because we've seen it before. We've seen Saka play centrally before, and Saka can hack it. Saka's got
I
the
don't have
abilities.
no worries about Saka playing anywhere.
He's got the touch to play under pressure. He's very good on the half turn. He can carry the ball. Like you know, to the point it's where somewhere like sometimes we talk about Saka getting doubled up on the right. Like I feel like this is a bit of a way to free him a bit more.
You because you if you do bring an extra man there, you're gonna forego someone in an important area. So I think that's probably the best solution to the Odegaard problem. I just think sometimes you don't want to. Arteta used to do it a lot in his early days. Is make two problems to fix one problem.
It's true. I think we used to talk about that. You know, like when we used to have an issue, and then he put Xhaka left back, and I was like, oh,
them kind of things. Yeah, but I think Saka, and now that we have Sterling and Jesus as well, I think that alleviates some of the problem personally, and I think Saka's close enough to his natural position that
I think
he's not a loss.
I think also about Saka playing centrally. Remember when we were trying to sign Rafinha a few seasons back? I thought that was a tactical change we might have seen at that point, because obviously if we had spent big money on Rafinha, then you would have had sort of a natural right wing, and then maybe would have seen Saka come centrally. But I think the other thing with playing Saka centrally is I think it can potentially open up sort of different angles of attack on the right side if, let's say, someone like Sterling is there, because obviously Erdogan and Saka work really well together, but again, they tend to, when they're on sort of that right side, they can somehow have those slight angle biases because of them being left-footed and that. But when you got Sterling, who's kind of a more natural runner down that side, I think you can sort of stretch your fullback and the centre back a little bit more, because obviously you've got opposite feet but playing on the same side. So I think potentially it can work really well. I don't think Arteta's made any reference to doing it though. So I am curious to see, in the coming weeks, if it's something that he does go to, or he puts a little bit more faith in Ethan. I think we'll probably see a mixture of the two at some point.
Yeah, I think what you gain from Saka in that position is probably a bit more like running power, the ability to carry the ball through centrally. Obviously, he won't have the same ability to probe and pick passes. I don't think. I think Saka can pick a pass, but I don't think the consistent getting on it, controlling tempo. That's probably what we'll lose. But I think that's a very good viable option. I feel like after the Nwaneri one, that's the one I'd like to see more than potentially any other option. So we've got a lot of interesting listener questions, and I think you touched on this in the group just slightly in the first half when we were talking about the City Inter game. It looks like Inter. So this is from Salty Gooner. He says it looks like Inter and Inzaghi know how to play against City. Somewhat nasty team to play against. I agree. What can we learn / replicate for Sunday?
I mean, I feel like this is a different competition with completely different rewards available at this point of the season. I don't think there's anything that you can take from this game into our game, because the circumstances are entirely different. I feel last season we showed that we know how to play City. I think one of the key things we need to do is not listen to the stupid chat that came off the back of our game, where they acted like, you have to win your away game and the home team doesn't have to win, which was bullshit. So, I don't think this game tells Arsenal anything personally.
No, I agree, and just Shabs, I'm going to let you come in on that point as well, because I saw people like, obviously we know the narrative that went around, like Arsenal not winning at City cost us the title last season, when we all know that was bullshit. And for me, I thought this week was really important to, especially after we dropped points against Brighton, we needed to win one of the games. So I feel like winning at Spurs has given us a bit of a buffer, like for this City game. Like I feel like if we were to get a point, I think everyone would be happy with that, especially considering the absences we know we have as well. I feel like it still leaves us in a good position. We'd only be 2 points behind City, so I got no issue with that. But in terms of what we can learn, I think we're not. I think we're already a really well structured and well organized team like Inter. I do think they have a really interesting way of how they attack, right? In terms of how they manage, they leave two up top and they leave their two quite central. So the two strikers are always occupying the centre back. So maybe gives them a bit of something else a bit to think about. But again, to Ant's point, it's a different competition. So maybe we see it lined up differently at the weekend. Shabs, did you want to say something?
I think there's I think there's no shame going away to City and keeping a score draw or taking a point off them. Teams don't win at the Etihad.
No,
they don't. And I know people could say, well, if Arsenal's aspirations are for the title, then that's something that they need to do. We don't.
Yeah, I don't think nobody's won at
not,
home of the team that's come second. No, City beat us 4-1, but City weren't beating Liverpool at Anfield when they was winning the title.
Exactly.
Liverpool weren't beating City at the Etihad when they were winning the title. It's a new rule made just for Arsenal.
Klopp in his whole time at he never won the league. He never won a league game.
He never won a game at the Etihad
while Pep was there. While Pep was there, the only time Pep won at Anfield was during COVID. That was it. So I think it's a bit of a bullshit. It's a bit of a bullshit excuse, to be fair. But yeah, go on, Shabs.
People say this kind of stuff all the time. It doesn't. It doesn't. And it's so early in the season as well for the title to be decided. Now, I know there's this thing about, we could potentially look back. If we fall a point short or 2 points short, we could potentially look back at games and say, oh, this one's cost us, well, that one's cost us. I don't think in that way. I think, there are like 33 games to play for after the Man City outcome. So there's more than enough opportunity to rack up 33 games. That's 100 points plus the ones we've already got on the board. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So there's more than enough opportunities.
You're right.
There's more than enough opportunities to win. Like I'm not seeing it as this game is make or break or anything like that. I think City are still levels. I think they're not levels, not that we've definitely closed the gap. I think defensively, I really back us to keep them at bay. I think where they've improved or added is in their attacking line. I like Savinho. I like what he's doing, and
he was very quiet tonight.
I think is. To be fair, I didn't watch this game, but I like him in general, not based off what he's done at City, because obviously he's just reached. But I watched Girona a lot last season, and not a lot. I saw them a couple of times, and I said, "Wow, who's this kid that's just balling out?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." Done the research, and like, "Oh, okay, he's going City then." So yeah, I like him. I like what he has looked like. He has the promise of threatening. Him and Doku are very threatening attackers, and Rodri, is. I was really surprised. I was looking at some metrics and. Not surprised by Doku in terms of expected threat, if you believe in and follow that stuff, but really surprised by Rodri in terms of the volume of expected threat that he provides for City. So Doku does it via carries and Rodri does it via his passing.
How is that counted, though, things like that?
It's like it's the possession values. So it's looking at where he receives the ball on the pitch and where he moves the ball to, and then what method of so like he makes passes that take out X amount of players with his passes, and Doku starts with the starting position and the end position, and what's the possession value of the end position, and Doku is carrying the ball often from the wing, beating one player or beating two players, and then releasing it in the box, usually for a shot creating action. So a shot, a pass that leads to a shot, or something that gets off on target. So yeah, them two are the players really. And somewhat surprisingly, because if you're City, we're thinking, well, Haaland, innit, and KDB are the ones who are really the danger men. But yeah, no, the numbers are the numbers. So yeah, I'm really surprised. But yeah, no, I say that to say, like, I think that's where they're good. I think that's where they're strong. I think where we're really strong is defensively. And so, I back Saliba, I back Gabriel if he starts to do their job again, put on another fine display. Ben White as well. I think Raya's had a fantastic start to this season as well. Like, there have been some games where he's been quiet, but when he's been called upon, he's been on it. The only time we've conceded so far this season is when that nonsense Brighton game where we're down to 10 men. Other than that, he's not conceded a goal. And then our record away, because this is an away game, isn't it? It's at the Etihad. Our record away from home, we're talking about it and how fantastic it's been, and we've not lost a game away from home all year. So yeah, for me, again, like I go into this game with a lot of confidence about how we could set up despite the circumstances. So I'm not worried about it.
I was gonna add to that. Well, the bit about the needing of a result from the Etihad. I was laughing earlier when I was hearing you, man, sort of talk about how we didn't actually lose the league at City. We lost it at Villa. And obviously explaining that, Klopp and Pep never won at the opposing ground. What we have to remind ourselves is that there are bare men out there who don't like Arsenal, and all they can do is cling on to narrative-based analysis. I think once you just accept that, then you can move on, because, yeah, not winning at City is definitely not the indicator whether you're going to win a title or not. I don't think I've heard a single sort of non-Arsenal fan even reference the fact that last season we lost 2-0 at home to West Ham. It just doesn't come up in any conversation, like, whatsoever. It's all about we didn't win at Etihad, we didn't win at Etihad. Maybe there's an mention of Villa because the bottling narrative, but literally no one talks about the fact that we lost 2-0 at home to West Ham. So yeah, once we're a good team, there's nothing else to cling on to apart from the fact we're good. The only thing that's left is for us to win. So until we do that, these men are going to cook up all sorts of narrative. I already know if we draw 0-0 at City on Sunday, that Rio Ferdinand's going to be trending on Monday saying that, Arsenal ain't got what it takes to win the title because they're supposed to go to the Etihad and win and blah, blah, blah. He's going to make us a narrative. So yeah, players won't care about Players won't care about it. Just go do your job. If there's an opportunity in transitions, especially, we've got to take advantage. Remember the big one last season when Trossard was through and didn't make that was it pass over to Martinelli, I think it was, whoever. Point is, there will be opportunities. We've got to be more ruthless. Maybe the fact that we've got someone like Sterling coming off the bench who can replicate, that sort of transition threat that we needed. I remember he actually scored a goal against City last season in transition. I remember that game. So having that option off the bench could maybe be the difference this season, where instead of, we're ruining a missed chance, it goes in the back of the net. But either way, go there, perform well, win, lose or draw. The season is most definitely not a catastrophe after 5 games. We've got a good point still. Just got to move on to the next game.
Facts. Fun one from Count Draxula. He says, who in the current Arsenal squad fits the Barclays man hashtag that's been trending?
Trossard.
Current Arsenal squad?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably Trossard.
Trossard.
Yeah, I think Trossard.
I'm out of the loop. What does
Trossard still?
I'm out of the loop. What does the
So Barclays man is
mean?
like, them good players, but they're not the top table players. But they had a bit going on for their level. So Kevin Morales was one of them.
Yeah.
Them man.
Kudu was another.
Yeah, and they had good periods. They weren't elite, so but you remember them for good things they've done. So I saw a Juan Pablo Angel one floating from Aston Villa as well.
Oh my god, I liked him. He was a hoopers.
Sean Maloney.
Yeah, that trend was
Lomana
dope. Yeah,
Lua.
yeah.
Little,
I think from our current squad, I think
high
it's
shooter.
only Trossard still.
No,
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
agree.
Trossard could be a Barclays man for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he could definitely be a
fair
Barclays man.
enough.
Gabriel Jesus
Okay.
might end up as a Barclays man, but he shouldn't be a Barclays man. He's underachieving.
Bro, trust me, he can't even make that cut at the moment. At least
Yeah,
Trossard
he's
has
not even a Barclays man at this point.
trust me, Trossard has the goals tally and the goals
Yeah,
catalogue to be
Trossard's
more
a
of a
Barclays
Barclays man. So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, you here are similar about the Inter stuff. Tolar_M_91 says, I think Sterling will bang, but what would he have to put up numbers wise for you to think there's a deal to be done with Chelsea? Or are you lot just thinking loan him, then let him go back to Chelsea?
18 goals.
I think he has to have a phenomenal season, goal wise. Yeah, something like 18 is steep. Bear in mind, like our strikers aren't even hitting 18, but I think
how many
anywhere
times has he
between.
hit 18 in his career?
Yeah, exactly.
He
I think
scored
14,
25 in three consecutive seasons at City.
not
Really?
league goals, not league goals.
That's why I said all comps. I said 18
all
all comps. Yeah.
Oh, 18 all comps. 18 all comps, yeah, something like that. But I don't
Oh
think it's
wow,
just
he got
on the
18, 17, and 20 in the Prem alone.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just the outputs though and the performances. I think the salary is a factor. You know, so it's the age and the
we got
salary.
a touch now, but you know,
Arsenal are not
different
like, free to. He would have to for Arsenal to sign him. He would have to slap heavily, and then he would have to cut his wages by half. Because bearing in mind he's about
remember,
and
he's
I
turning
think he'd have to have
30
it.
this season as
he's
well.
turning 30. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think he'd have to have a huge impact on the dressing room as well. Like these guys are just like, oh yeah, like he's brought the spirit of Christ, the Redeemer, into the dressing room, and
Because what could we
everyone
even
loves
offer him
him.
that
And
makes sense for us? Because if they let him go for free, for example, and we give him a 2-year deal, 2 or 3 years, because is a winger still going to be the guy at 32, 33? I don't know.
Right. So this is the argument me and
How many
Shabs
wingers go past 30, 31? I'm trying to think.
And this is the discussion me and
Look at
Shabs were
Mane
having,
and
right?
Salah. Well, not Salah. Salah's still going.
Because when did Sterling break through, right? He was like what 16, 17, right?
17, there's a lot of miles on that clock still.
There's a lot of mileage on Sterling's clock, which I think was always my point. So he's had like
And
13 years.
don't forget as well, more important than that, Sterling has always played at the top end of the table. Sterling's never had that period where obviously Liverpool had a bad season when he was his last season there. But Sterling's never had that period where your performance and your results are irrelevant. Like there's no pressure. You could just play as a player. He's always been playing for something at a massive club. And he is nearly 400 Premier League appearances down.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Top end of the table. Do you get it? So there's even more that goes into his miles. Remember, a lot of they come like Rooney's coming. He's at Everton. There's not a great deal going on the first couple of years. Milner's coming at Leeds. There's not a great deal going on when you're there or when you're at Newcastle, etc., etc. Sterling hasn't had that luxury like other wonder kids.
I'm more in the camp of I would loan him and then I would send him back and then I would try and get like a younger plate version.
But if he does really well, then that's a risk.
What's really well for you then? And what's
for
really
me,
well?
if he hits double figures in the league,
okay,
and we win something, and he's a certified starter, I think that's really well. If he's a net positive.
But bearing in mind what you've just said though about the mileage on the clock and him playing at the top for that long, and how long do you think he can continue going on?
I know, but here's the thing.
Is that a deal worth doing for you when you think you could
be
potentially go and look for someone a bit?
I think it's highly unlikely there'll be a fee involved with him. And once he's cemented as a starter in this team and he's a net positive, do the club run the risk of not bringing an important player that they can get for no money? I Arteta, look. Jorginho gets a new contract. El Neni was getting new contracts. Arteta likes having people around that the players
Experience.
are experienced and the players like. So if Sterling's got that as well as contributions on the pitch, and he's no money, it's kind of a no-brainer. I think you have to look at it like this: if you can get Sterling on a permanent, on a 2-year deal for, I don't know, 150k a week, even 3 years, how much money is that we're spending out on him?
Yeah.
That's
I could look it up.
that's 23 million pounds over the course of his contract. Now, if we sign a 15 million pound player, that's 5, 7, 10, maybe even 10 years younger. By the time we give him 50k a week, which is nothing at this level, we spend more money, and we don't even know what we're going to get out of that anyway.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
I think the ball is in Sterling's court still. If he performs, I think he gets a permanent. I don't think Chelsea can demand a fee for him, and I don't think Arsenal would pay one either. Not a massive one.
Is Sterling willing to give up the 60-odd million that he's owed?
Well, he wouldn't have to, would he? Even if they sell him, they're going to have to pay him up. Remember,
part of the reason he put that statement out, though. So part of the reason he put that statement. I said part of the reason he put that statement out, though, was to basically remind them that I'm on a long-term contract. So
Yeah, but how long is his Chelsea contract?
It was a 5-year deal, and he's done 2 years. So this is technically year 3 of his contract.
So by next season, he's got a season. He's got 2 seasons left on it.
2 seasons left. After this season, is 2 seasons left. Yeah.
It's not like there's a way back in for him next year. They're not going to want to use him. They'll make an agreement.
You know what's nasty as well, and is
it all depends on how he performs.
You know what's nasty is
it all depends on how he performs.
How did they make
one of the problems with loans is that a manager doesn't have any inclination to use that player. There's no, it doesn't really matter. Like, does he want to alienate Martinelli for Sterling that might be gone in a year? I don't know if he want to do that. I would, because I don't rate Martinelli. Unlike you lot.
And no. Let's hang on, because no. I'm also in that camp because boy,
welcome,
listen,
brother. Welcome.
The Dans are not here to defend their boy. And it's funny because we have a question here from JK_Muku, who asks, were you encouraged by the Martinelli performance at the weekend, or do you think he did well because there was space?
I thought he was woeful.
I heard that Martinelli posted his sofa score or something like that. Like he posted.
No,
I don't know if that's completely true. I don't know if it's completely true, but I saw someone say that
Martinelli reminded me of on Sunday.
What?
Do you remember when Wenger went through that little mad phase of playing Sanya right back and Abue right wing? That's what he was playing like, Abue at right wing, just without the crossing.
Bro, I even just saw today, that brother has not scored a goal since March.
He's only not good.
He still outscored Jesus though.
Hey, Martinelli could be a Barclays man.
Another season of this.
Hey, I forgot about him. Martinelli would be a prime Barclays man.
Brother, another season of this, I need him at the door, bro. Because I'm sorry, when you're on 175 bags a week, my guy, you are earning bread. You need to produce, and you haven't been producing. That's the reality. I don't want to hear about like the optics on the left hand side are not the best for you, my guy. Like, your basic actions every game, you're just messing up, bro. Like, you're just messing up, man. So I would love to have, obviously Sterling might snatch his chain. I know you guys think he might snatch his chain very soon. So them man have got to be careful. He's got to be careful, very, very careful. Tread carefully. I think I said last season, it would not surprise me if Martinelli got Ramsdale by Arteta. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. Obviously, the benefit with Martinelli you have is that his age, there's a lot of, he's still very young. He's still only 23. So I don't think Arteta will lose complete faith in him yet. But if you don't rise it, my guy, you're very susceptible to being upgraded just like everybody else. So you might be another one that doesn't make the step up. Stina Swag. He says Adeyemi scored this weekend. Meanwhile, Raphael Emiro dropped a clamor back to back. He says, "Will the TG aesthetics merchants admit he's not it, or is it not fashionable?" Who in here? I don't
No
know
one here
anyone.
rates
I was
Leao.
about to
I think
say.
the
I was
chats
gonna
have been
say.
exactly the same from everyone.
I
I'm
was
the only
just
guy. I'm the only guy that defends Liao because
no.
he's actually
Okay.
he. But
So
again,
you're
I defend it on the principle that he's actually won a league title in a top 5 league. Where certain man will go into bat for the ghost of Kiev, who's done absolutely nothing his entire career.
okay. Oh, so you were sending shots at the Dans because of Mudryk.
I'm just trying to
Yeah,
understand
but
the consistency of logic in
would
it.
Leao's output be any different to Mudryk's if he was here at
Boy,
Chelsea?
do you know what? I watched
Is
him.
Mudryk leading any team to a league title in a top 5 league? I don't think
Bro,
so.
no.
Liao was MVP of the league.
Maybe in Italy he could.
Bro, I can't lie
Uh,
to you. Yeah, I watched Leao last night against Liverpool. He was making me sick, bro. He might be one of the laziest wingers I've ever seen in my life, bro. Like that guy, he actually has ability though. That's the thing with Leao, but he goes through the motions so much. Like he acts as if he's the best player, but my guy, if you're gonna be that lazy, I need you to be shooting like consistently. His output for what he does on the pitch, like he's gonna end up being like another YouTube highlights real player if he doesn't sort himself out, bro. He was just getting blammed. Like, bearing in mind, Trent can't defend either, bro. Like, he weren't giving Trent no stress whatsoever. So, yeah, I thought he was very, very disappointing.
I like how we've gone through the whole conversation without actually mentioning Adeyemi. I think that kind of says everything
Oh,
about him.
bro,
But anyway,
no one wants Adeyemi, man.
Yeah, I don't rate him.
Nah,
I don't rate him.
he's one of those definitions of just a real pace merchant, but
Yeah.
he's quite brain dead. I find Adeyemi. Every time I've watched him, I'm like, this kid's quite. He's got like obviously the potential raw attributes, but I don't think he's levels at all, man. So yeah. All right, gents. I think we're gonna leave it there. I think we've gone through most of the listeners' questions. Quick prediction. Go around the room. Ahead of Atalanta tomorrow. What's the
I'm
score
gonna
gonna be?
say 2-1 Arsenal.
2 on Arsenal. Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying
Shabs
2-1.
Where are we
2-1.
playing?
away. It's at Atalanta.
We're drawing 2-2.
Join and they've been in. Obviously, we know Atalanta Europa League champions. Lookman's in very good form. I don't know if you man saw what he did at the weekend. There was one mad assist he had here where he bodied the defender, put in a great ball, and then he scored a great goal himself, which I believe was the winner. So he's in really,
So
really good form, Ademola Lookman at the moment. So I think
Ben
that will be a
White
tough
might,
game.
Ben White might get a flogging tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So
yeah,
that would be that would be an interesting game. I feel like obviously, when people saw them, everyone when they saw them in the Europa League final, I think everyone expected Leverkusen to flog them, and obviously it went completely the other way, right? They got Atalanta absolutely finished them. So I think that'll be quite a tough game tomorrow, man. So
The thing is,
I'll go for a narrow 2-1. Go on, Shabs.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, not. I didn't mean to talk over you there. The thing is, they're hit and miss. They're inconsistent. They are very good when they're good, but the other day against Real Madrid in the Super Cup, they got absolutely slapped. Now I know it's Madrid, but they didn't look very good at all compared to like kind of what we know that they can be. I think what they are is they're good defensive side. They've got that sturdy Italian defense. Attack wise, they're very unpredictable. And that Decatur, I know it didn't work out for him when he went Milan, but at Atalanta, he's been really good. He usually starts as like a forward man, and he drops off that front line. He drops into
He's
these really awkward spaces, and he does like a Kai Havertz kind of job. But he hits moving runners, so that's why when I've watched him, he's linked up with
it's Skamaka
Ademola
fit. That's what I
really
was
well.
going to say. Is Skamaka there? Is Skamaka playing? Do we know if
He's
he's fit?
out for the
I think
season,
that's
isn't
fit.
he?
yeah,
He's
he
out
tore
for
his
He's
the
done his
season.
ACL.
ACL.
Oh,
Yeah,
done his 8. Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
He's
So that's a
done
blessing. That's a blessing
Yeah.
for us as well. But yeah.
All right, we'll see. We'll leave it there, lads. Thank you very much. I think Lewis said we're going to be. We might do well. It's not. We might. We'll probably do a post-match Patreon after tomorrow's game. So yeah, fingers crossed we get the W on that. But Shabs, Khalil, gents, thank you very much for joining. And listeners, thank you very much for tuning in. We will catch you on the flip side. Peace.
All right, then, my bro. Love.
Bless.
Later.